Thanks for the intro, Marissa. I'm Dominique, Director of Training Implementation here at QReserve. Recognize quite a few names on here, some new names I haven't yet had the opportunity to meet you, so great to meet everyone here today. I've been with QReserve for a while, I think since 2018, so chances are that I've responded to one of your emails or perhaps was involved in some of your training or early implementations, and if not, looking forward to working with you guys in the future. So today's session is going to be focused on maintenance management. Marissa has done a great job with these QU sessions. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from our clients. And when she asked me if I had a topic I wanted to talk about, my mind sort of immediately went to maintenance. Maintenance, in my view, is sort of a hidden gem feature in QReserve. Not everyone's coming to us to use us exclusively as a maintenance platform. You're typically coming to us for scheduling, workflow management, all of that. But there's, in almost all use cases of QReserve, an application for using our maintenance tool. So I think sometimes it kind of flies under the radar. We've also had a lot of updates to maintenance that have happened over the years, a lot of new features that people might not be aware of. So that's why I thought, let's focus on maintenance, do a bit of a deep dive. I'm going to share my screen here. Just want to make sure you have a visual there. Perfect. Yeah, let's do a bit of a deep dive. The goal for today, to kind of set the stage of all the different maintenance options that are out there, starting from very basic foundational ways you can use it to more advanced ways. Little disclaimer, today's going to be less about the mechanics of how to set that up and how to implement it. I will be sharing my screen of the application for a bit to show you where things are located, but some things just require a bit more. So maybe that's a theme for a second sort of spin-off of this, where we dive deeper into some of the more complicated ones. So if you feel like I'm sort of brushing past some of the more complicated ones, it's by design, just to try to keep this into an hour session. But if there's interest, we can do another session to talk more about how to set that up. So that is the goal for today. Another little disclaimer before we get started, a lot of the resources that you're going to see in my demo deck and my screenshots when I'm in the app, it's more geared towards equipment, and specifically scientific equipment. That just so happens to be what I have in my one demo site I've spun up. But maintenance features are agnostic to any type of resource. So this can be, we have a lot of clients that use us for meeting rooms or spaces, non-scientific equipment. You might have AV gear that you're loaning out. So the maintenance tools work all the same regardless of the resource type that you have. Okie dokie, let us jump in, keeping an eye on the time here. Okay. Starting off, very beginning, sort of two pillars of maintenance bookings in QReserve. We have the concept of a blocking maintenance event and a non-blocking maintenance event. You can really think of maintenance really at the end of the day is a type of a reservation in QReserve. So if you've already used maintenance, the UI is very familiar. You have a start, end time you can pick, reminder notifications, you can assign maintenance to a person, basically identical to how you would make a reservation. It's just classified separately, so we can run separate reports. We can track downtime versus reserved for time, aka uptime. So at its core, it's really a booking, a reservation, but classified differently. And you can have a blocking maintenance that puts a hold in the calendar, so a user couldn't book over top of that. And then a non-blocking, which is like a soft booking. You can use it more of a reminder. It's not going to stop usage during that time. So examples I've seen here, like software updates, visual inspections. Maybe this is just a reminder for you as the admin to go and book the actual blocking maintenance. So you can see here on my screen, let me go full mode here. You know what, I'll probably have to go in and out of full mode to share my next screen. You'll see down here, we have this is an example of a non-blocking maintenance. It's very obvious from the calendar what's blocking, non-blocking by the shading. The solid color is the blocking maintenance. And then you'll always be able to tell maintenance because we put the handy dandy wrench right beside it. And just a little pro tip here, what I often recommend to people, if you are okay with end users seeing the purpose of your maintenance, which oftentimes it's helpful for them to see like why it might be offline right now, I always recommend using the maintenance name override field. And that is what makes this what it makes it appear like this, where I can see right here from the calendar that it's a repair, and this is a reminder. Nice and easy for any user to see. And I'll hop on over into the app right away to show you just, again, where you make the maintenance booking, how all of that looks, and how you can do that override field. So I am in my lab demo site here. I'm just going to pick an instrument here. Again, it is a type of booking, so you can think of it as if you're just making a reservation, but then you as the admin have the option to toggle over and classify this as maintenance. Very similar UI, we pick the time and date. This is where we can say, is it blocking or non-blocking? You'll notice this option down here. So if your instrument, your resource, your room is already set to block other resources for whatever your rule might be, this allows you to basically propagate to copy that block onto the resources that the primary instrument is already blocking. So this maintenance would block all of the resources the compound microscope is already set to block. Similar to, again, a reservation, we can do recurring maintenance bookings. We can have this repeat on a monthly, yearly, weekly basis. We can assign it to a person if we wanted or add a guest. Everything very, very similar to a regular booking. This is the little pro tip here. What I wanted to suggest is that if you want to have a really clear visual from the calendar request table view, go on into this field specifically and write the purpose down. So I'm going to say this is for a repair from 1 to 2 p.m. and this is a blocking booking. We will touch more on this form here a little bit later on into the session. Okay, let me do a quick reload now because that might be important for this call. Perfect, so we could see the new booking right here from the calendar. Heading back over to my deck. So that is the sort of 2 pillars, the basics of maintenance. Let's talk about where we could view these. Again, it is a type of reservation in QReserve. So anywhere you would look to go find a reservation, you can also find your maintenance bookings. That's sort of the rule of thumb to think about. So the 2 most obvious ones being your calendar, you could see all of your maintenance bookings as well as your activity reports. Again, they're classified separately, so you could filter them in and out. And there's some bonus sort of toggles I'll show you right away. But I'm going to hop on back into the main application. You can see here my calendar. In preparing for this webinar, you can see most of my bookings are maintenance already. But the reality is your calendars are probably going to have a lot of regular bookings in here. So if there's ever the need to just filter this down to truly just show your maintenance bookings, head on up to the filter section up here. And that is where you could apply. You can remove these types of bookings and only, apply this for maintenance. Similarly, down here, if you wanted to hide or show non-blocking maintenance, again, those are the soft bookings, the reminders, you have the toggle here on the calendar to turn them on and off. Heading over to the admin side, activity report is the second place that you can get a sort of audit log of all of your maintenance that you're having. So apply your date range. And then I wanted to bring your attention here to the status section here. This is where we can remove and select only the maintenance related bookings for this time period and run our report. So here are all my bookings that I can see. I can also consolidate this for by each resource to see total downtime for each of my resources over this time period. So my compound microscope has been down at maintenance time for 9 hours between April 8th and 15th. One bonus place to view maintenance records as well as the administrator, and that is at the resource level. So let me head on in and we'll pick my centrifuge. I'm going to head on over to the maintenance tab over here. And this is another way to just have a quick audit log at the instrument level of all of your different maintenance records that have happened. You can click on each one, pop them open to learn a little bit more. If there's a form attached, extra details, etc. So those are the primary places where you can find those maintenance records. But again, some key things to just reiterate again, Their maintenance bookings are very similar to reservations, so a lot of the same features. You can make bookings on behalf of people, set them to be recurring, have reminders sent to the person, assign an account number if needed. All of that still remains the same when you are doing a maintenance booking. Okay, moving on to the next slide, maintenance user role. Right now, I'm doing this as an administrator in my site, and for a long time, the ability to make maintenance records was exclusive to an administrator or to a moderator in QReserve. That's done by design. We don't want users to have the ability to just take an instrument offline. Oftentimes, too, a user might not know, is it broken? Am I doing something incorrect? So it doesn't make sense to extend that power to the user themselves. So it was sort of reserved for administrators and moderators only. Recently, though, I think this is an update within the last year, we've added more granular user permissions. And for those of you that are familiar with QReserve, you know that our development pipeline and sort of the features that we add directly come from our clients. And we were hearing quite a bit that there was this desire to have more granular user roles specifically for maintenance. And so this new feature came out, I want to say within the last year. And I'm going to demo where that's located in case this is sort of a hidden feature some of you might not be aware of. The idea behind it is to add extra permissions to a regular user. So you don't have to open up the floodgates and give them full access to the backend. They can stay a user. You can just sort of layer on the extra permission to make, view, or edit maintenance bookings. I will show you where that is located over here. So in the user menu, you can select any user. I will pick Brandon. You can head on over along the top nav bar here, and you'll see this permission section. So let me show you how this works right from the beginning. Again, for any regular user, you have these bonus assigned roles that you can now add. And there is a long list. Let me see. Ooh, we can't see my drop down. I'm just confirming. Sarah, Marissa, can you confirm you can or cannot see my drop-down list?
You have to share the entire screen to be able to see drop-downs.
Gotcha. Okay, let me do that. Okay, just to show you what this looks like here. Ooh, hide this. I'll go back to regular mode shortly. But there is a long list of additional roles we can assign to a user. So the ones I want to highlight here are the maintenance editor and the maintenance viewer role. So we can add that to Brandon's permission set here. And we could see right here, permissions granted, maintenance editor. Brandon can now create, edit, view details of maintenance bookings. And then if he was just to be a viewer, you can basically expand on the details of a maintenance booking that an administrator or someone else has made. So this is a really handy feature. Again, allows you to give some admin permissions and roles without opening up the floodgates to absolutely everything in the back end. And a new sort of feature that is fresh off the press, this was just released in time for this call, is a maintenance restriction for this specific editor. We have always had the ability to be a bit more granular about what users Brandon would be able to edit, whose maintenance bookings Brandon would be able to edit. So maybe I'm an administrator and I'm saying Brandon can not only create any new maintenance record, but he can also edit my records that I've made. The new feature I want to bring to your attention, though, is the ability to lock this down at the resource level. Before today, if I was to give Brandon maintenance editor role, Brandon could make a maintenance booking for any resource. But as of today, we now have the ability to lock this down to a specific resource or to a specific group of resources. So I may want Brandon to have editing rights for anything that is tagged equipment. Or maybe I want to lock this down to a specific resource. So very exciting, new release. That is what my little update button at the bottom just did, was unlocked this new feature. All right, we're gonna go back to window view here. Okay, so we have discussed user roles of who can actually make these maintenance bookings. By default, administrators and moderators can always make maintenance bookings, but now we have that added user permission, and we can even lock that down further at the resource level. We've talked a lot about making the actual maintenance bookings right now, whether you're an admin or a user with a special permission. But I wanted to take it back sort of to the beginning of the story where, how does the user inform us that there's a maintenance issue? How do we empower the user to give us the information we need so then we can go and take the equipment, the room, whatever the resource is offline and create that maintenance booking? A lot of different ways that this practically happens. Oftentimes it's like I walk by someone tells me, I've noticed this with the equipment. So a lot of the times it still happens verbally. It might be by email. But QReserve has a really slick way that we can just sort of unify this process and make it really straightforward for the users. We can have standard questions that they ask. So you're always getting all the info you need up front. There's no back and forth. And this is it operates sort of like a ticketing system. So what I'll be talking about right now is sort of to cover the end user's role in notifying your team about the issue. So a recent feature, I want to say this came out within the last year or so, is this concept of a support resource in QReserve. I'm not sure how many people are aware of this or practically using it, but it's designed to help with this sort of ticket system workflow that I'm about to walk through, where a user is using a piece of equipment, notices an issue, wants to bring this to your attention. So I will go ahead and share my screen and the app over here. Okay, so some basics on how to set up this ticketing system, this support resource. Number one, it really starts with a form. We want to have a standard way to collect the questions. So your first step is to create that maintenance form. I am going to go look for my maintenance form that I created. Why can I never find this form? Consumable, instrument, job request. Service request form? No, that's not it. Every time I have gone through this, I don't know, this form is here. It is just hidden to my eyes. Marissa, anyone seeing it?
Into the chat. Thank you, participant. I think you're in the reservation section, top tab.
Yeah, no, it's for my
Oh, okay.
It's for my maybe it's called service request form. I'm looking the wrong letter, not M. Maintenance.
Yeah, probably why.
Service request form. There you go. I was looking in the wrong letter. Forgot what I named it. Here we go. But thank you, whoever brought that up. Yes, we're going to get to that. There is a full new maintenance section form, but that is actually a good point here. When you are creating a support resource in QReserve, it's still a resource. It is not in the maintenance world yet. So that's why I've specifically made a regular resource requestable form. And just to show you the types of questions I've done here. Oh, not service request form. What is going on here? You know what? I will find it.
Dominique, I think it's the maintenance form. Try again.
And there is a maintenance form here, right? I'm just not seeing it with my eyes.
First page. So yeah, first page, and then just change the number.
Oh my gosh, right up here, maintenance form. Okay, I have quite literally done this every time. I don't know why that form is hidden to my eyes. I can't see it. Thank you, Cindy. This is the one I want to talk about. Okay, this is just the way I've designed this form. Totally up to you how you want to do it. I've created a drop-down question to collect the type of problem that they're experiencing. So maybe it's an error code display. Text field to collect the description of the issue, file upload for a photo, that doesn't hurt. And I also have a question if there's any samples in the machine. So just to show you what the form looks like, it always starts with defining that form, and this is going to be that standard set of questions that users are going to go through when notifying you of the issue. From there, once we have the form, we want to make a maintenance resource. And this is going to be a requestable type. We don't need a calendar associated with it. We want that ticketing system feel where it's a request that's coming in. So I have one already made. I'm going to look for it here. You can see it's a requestable resource. I've created it. And really the main thing you want to do here is attach that form. So I have my maintenance form attached to my maintenance request. And the last piece of the puzzle here is we now want to designate this that I've just created, my maintenance form with my maintenance request. We want to designate this as the support resource for my instruments, for my pieces of equipment. So there is a field in QReserve that I've actually set this column to represent. It's called support resource. And you can see here for all of my pieces of equipment, I have gone down and I have added the maintenance resource as the support resource. What does this look like now for the end user? Why end users like this is because it's a really straightforward, simple way to bring this to your attention. Anytime there's an issue, I have the same process. I go to the resource profile, and there's going to be this request support button up here. And this is what's going to take me to that maintenance request. I'm going to fill out the maintenance form, and it's going to notify your team. You'll notice here that it's already in relation to the instrument that I'm submitting this from. So this is one of the sort of major wins and bonuses of using this feature, is that there's no back and forth of like, what instrument was this for? Which confocal microscope? You're submitting it from the instrument level, so it's already in relation to it. So you as the admin have that piece of information up front. And then the user would go through the form and submit this to your team. So again, any resource that you attach that support resource to, they're going to go through. I'm having an issue with the PCR machine. Same process applies. I fill out a support request. I have done the same maintenance form and maintenance resource as the support request for all of my pieces of equipment, but you can also have different forms, different maintenance resources. Maybe for your rooms, locations, consumables, you might have a different support resource there. You have the ability to attach it at the resource level, so that gives you a lot of flexibility. Okay, moving our way down. Time check. Doing okay. Wanted to take a minute to talk about communicating maintenance with users and conflict resolution. A lot of the times maintenance will just it isn't planned. There are planned maintenance scenarios, but a lot of the times it could be unplanned. Something happens. There may already be reservations on the calendar that the maintenance period now impacts. So how do we do conflict resolution and how do we communicate this with users? So by default, QReserve, and this is by design, making a maintenance booking doesn't automatically wipe out and delete any bookings that it might conflict with. You'll always be able to see in the calendar, and QReserve will tell you there's a conflict or reservations here, but oftentimes that doesn't matter with maintenance. Like we need to, if there's an issue, we're taking it offline. So just something to note is that by making a maintenance booking that overlaps with existing bookings, you are not deleting them or getting rid of them. They're just going to exist side by side. So that leaves us with the next step of how to best way for conflict resolution, communicating this with users. One way to do this as the administrator, you have the ability to delete any booking that you want, or maybe move the booking on the user's behalf. So this is one workflow I have seen some labs do, where if there is an issue, this is the, that's not so many maintenance bookings here. Let's pretend my microtome down here, this is a regular booking. If this is now impacted by maintenance, I could actually just go in here, change the booking, or better yet, delete the booking and notify the user of the reason. So I can say, maintenance, please rebook. And I would spell that properly. One option. So you have the ability to override, delete existing bookings that conflict with maintenance. Not sort of putting the onus on you as the admin to take care of it. Another pathway that a lot of people like, I think is a little bit more popular, is to just communicate this with your users and get them to rebook their own reservations. So the easiest way to do that is using our mass messaging tool. This is another little hidden gem. I'm not sure if everyone here has used this or is aware that it exists, but our mass messaging tool is a really quick way if you wanted to communicate this to all of your users. And sometimes if it's a popular resource, we might want to do that where we go to user groups and we say all users here, send a note to everyone letting them know this particular instrument is down. We might also want to be a bit more specific though. If this is just one resource, we might only want to get in touch with the people that this really impacts. We have the ability to create a distribution list for our mass message based on the resource and who's using it. So by selecting this option here, select by resource, I could say, we'll pretend that this is my compound microscope is the resource that's having the issue. I don't care about sending it to contacts. They don't need to know, but I do care about users. So I'm going to turn this toggle on here. You have the ability to look both backwards and forwards. So if I don't need to get in touch with people that used it in the past couple of days, so I'll set that to 0, but I do want to get in touch with people that are using it tomorrow because it just got shut down today. Tomorrow it's offline for the full day. So I'm going to say 1 day into the future, QReserve is going to go through the calendar for this resource right here, find all users who have a booking in 1 day, which is tomorrow, and give you a distribution list. So here are my 2 users, and we could send a more targeted message to them, letting them know the issue and to rebook their reservations. Really, really handy tool, so many applications, but I find it especially helpful for maintenance issues. Okay. I think I've covered everything here. Yes. Time check and water break. 1 moment. Okay. Next section over here, I wanted to talk about actual usage tracking. Not everyone has an application for this with maintenance. We're sort of now entering the more advanced ways of using maintenance management. There are some scenarios though where it might make sense that you want to track actual usage for a couple of different reasons. Again, maintenance bookings are essentially reservations, so you have the same check-in and check-out features available to you, just as you would for checking into a meeting room, checking into using a piece of equipment, and checking out. So practically speaking, some reasons I've seen people use actual usage tracking for maintenance purposes is accountability. If you have internal, external people coming into your space to to perform maintenance, you may need to track that, right? Like check a name, confirm who was in the building, when they entered, when they exited, and having a check-in, check-out process would allow you to do that. So that is one key reason I've seen people use this. The other one is to optimize uptime and availability. Oftentimes when you're making a maintenance booking, you might not know how long the instrument is actually offline for. So sometimes people are more conservative. They might block off a full day or a couple of days for it. But then the repair happens. It might have only taken a couple of hours. And then we essentially want the equipment or resource back online after that. So having the check-in, check-out features enabled where upon checkout, it can be marked as available again, can help with that like usage optimization where you have automatic availability as soon as the repair is done. We can have some sort of buffer there, but it is the maintenance booking is corrected and updated and it's marked available for people to start using again. I'm sure there's some other reasons. These are just the 2 that come to mind. Also, I guess more accurate reporting. You truly know how long something was down for if you are running downtime reports. So those are the primary reasons. Now, how you would do that, you have the same check-in and check-out methods that you would for a regular reservation. So from your dashboard, from the calendar, from your email, and then also from a kiosk. So I have an example of a kiosk loaded up here, or this, if someone was coming in from off-site, this was assigned to them, they're coming in and they can check in and check out. Oh, too late to check into this one according to my rules, but I can check into my 12:30. Check in. Okay, I know I've kind of previewed this with me struggling to find the form I was looking for, but wanted to take a minute to chat about maintenance-specific forms. So thank you to whoever mentioned that in the chat. This is really exciting. This was another feature that came directly from clients that they wanted a way to, previously reservations and requests could have forms, but there was a desire from a group of clients saying, I would love to have the ability to have like checklists, standard questions that our maintenance team is filling out when they are entering a maintenance event. So introducing the maintenance forms. You will see here at the top, you have the option to have a regular reservation or request form. So that is what I did for my support resource. But now when we're actually making maintenance events, we have the ability to create other forms. So I have my advanced maintenance form here. I've created, totally up to you how you set these up. You can have lots of different forms. I've done this one in a particular way where I have sort of some logic here. So depending on the maintenance type that I'm selecting, it gives me different options. So lots of different ways that you could set this up, but maintenance forms are exclusive to maintenance bookings, reservation, and request forms are exclusive to you making a reservation or a request. Some examples of how I've seen these forms being used. I've seen intake, diagnostic forms, clients using this for like checklists to make sure they're taking the equipment offline correctly, or calibration forms, return to service forms, lots of different options there. And you can have a unique form for each one, or you can do sort of what I did here, where I have more of an advanced form with logic, where it's one advanced form with a lot of different questions built into it. So the use case for these forms can be different depending on when, at like what point you're doing it. So for example, if I just get a notification from my user that there's an error code on the instrument and I need to go have a look at it, the form that I'm filling out is going to be different than maybe when I am doing like a safety return to service form. You are attaching the form at the resource level. So anytime you submit maintenance, you're going to see all of the questions, all of the forms you've attached. So for that reason, my recommendation to give you more flexibility is to keep the questions, like don't require the questions unless it's truly important, it's answered each time. By having the questions as like optional and not set to required, it gives you the option and the flexibility to have a lot of different types of forms that can be filled out at different time stamps throughout the maintenance life cycle. So the way that I've set mine up, I would fill out the intake diagnostic form when I'm making the booking. I can go back into the reservation at the end and fill out the return to service questions. And I'm allowed to do this because I haven't made the form questions mandatory. So just a little tip there on how to give yourself a bit more flexibility. Attaching these forms is very similar to how you would do it for a regular resource. So you would create the form. And again, the key thing is make sure you're creating a maintenance form. Okay, you'll also see it here, type of form, maintenance. And then when you're going to attach the form, we are attaching it at the maintenance form level down here. So these forms are for regular reservations and requests, and this one down here is going to be for my advanced maintenance form. Okay, to show you what this looks like from the calendar now. Regular reservation has the regular form. I toggle on over to maintenance, and I now have my advanced form with all of the logic built in. Again, because they're not mandatory questions, I can fill out part of this form now, save the record, come in later at the end of the maintenance period, sign off on it, upload a certificate, whatever that next step is. I'm not going to override any of this. I'm just moving on to sort of the next phase and saving. So really, really powerful tool. Maintenance forms operates you basically set it up and attach it in a very similar fashion to how you're probably already familiar with regular reservation forms. Okay, doing good for time here. So as I mentioned, we're sort of more into the more advanced section of maintenance management, or just sort of different ways of thinking about it, things that people don't come top of mind when you think maintenance. That leads me to the service contract and coverage tracking section. This is a really handy, easy thing to set up in QReserve. So I don't know if I'd call this advanced, but it's really simple to do and provides a lot of value and is oftentimes a problem that pretty much everyone has. So something that I hear often from clients, whether it's like a piece of equipment that you've purchased, whether it's a meeting room with a lot of different resources in there, like you might have a smart board, a TV monitor, a TV screen, teleconferencing equipment. They're valuable resources and they likely have some sort of coverage, warranty, service contract assigned to it. Oftentimes that gets sort of trapped at the procurement level. But if you do have access to those documents and to those receipts and to whatever that is, it's really, really simple to actually tie that right into QReserve. And so starting off with document centralization, we have a really easy way where you can store, again, those receipts, warranty information, service contract details, all of that right at the instrument level. So heading on over to my admin side here, let me pick a different resource here. Along the top, we have our file management section. We can have private and public facing files. So you can see here in my two examples, I have an instrument SOP. That makes sense to keep that user facing. But then I have a folder of maintenance related documents and I've set those to private. And the one that I have here is my service contract from 2022 with the vendor. And it's available here to download and view by any admin. So really handy, centralize it. You have the file storage space. If you have access to this, highly recommend integrating that into your QReserve workflow. So you have the file there and that's really handy. But we can also take it a step further with some custom property metadata, just to give you a bit more options when it comes to reporting and workflows. So what I mean by that, I could download and view the details whenever I need, but I can also take it a step further and pull out sort of the important bits of information I want to have easily accessible. So in my profile here, I've gone down to my properties section and I've created a couple of custom resource properties. These don't exist already, so you can set them up, whatever makes sense for your workflow. But the ones I've made, I have my contract expiry date that I've pulled directly from that PDF that I've uploaded, which is in 2027. This is an example field that I made. I've set my preference for if I were to be reminded about a contract expiry date, I'd want to be reminded, let's say 60 days ahead. I've also then broken down some coverage fields just to see very easily what is covered in this contract: breakdown, cleaning, repair, full replacement, yes, no fields. So again, just some examples that I've made, and these can be easily set up from your site settings where you can define custom resource properties up here. So my maintenance suite of custom properties are all located here. I've also shown them to be, or selected, I have allowed them to be visible on activity reports, is what I'm trying to say, because then I can report on them if needed. So we have the basic file that we're uploading. We can then create this custom property metadata, which is just handy to view across all of your resources. One particular view that can be helpful, I'm going to switch this column to show my maintenance contract expiry date for my pieces of equipment. This is a common view that admins love. If we have that that information there, set your two columns to the appropriate maintenance properties, and we can sort of go down the list and sort by which ones are expiring, what is covered within this maintenance contract, etc. We could take this a step further as well. So that's great that we have the metadata now and we have this maintenance contract expiry. I also have that field that talks about maintenance expiry reminder, what I would like to see. How can we automate this though? So I can sort of go in every once a month and see and do the mental math myself of when I would need to go renew. But we can also automate this a bit more with our workflows. So this is teeing me up for one of our last sections here in this webinar, which is talking about workflow management, advanced workflows with maintenance. So for those that are familiar with workflows, we have two types in QReserve. We have subscriptions, things that happen on a recurring basis. And then we have triggers in QReserve, which are sort of like, if this happens, then do this in QReserve. And I have some interesting applications and ways I've seen clients use them for both of them. So I'll start off with with a subscription. So sort of the example I had just given, I have that metadata where it says, send me an email 30, 60, 90 days before the expiry date. I can create a subscription here that then alerts the correct people. So we're going to skim over all of this stuff. This could be a separate webinar in itself. We have all of the script information defined here. Thank you, Cindy. Shout out to Cindy for setting me up with this. But what I want to focus on is what we're telling the trigger to do. If this happens, then do this. And the then do this is a send an email. And it's pulling through the piece of the resource's name, the expiry date, and then the reminder notice that I selected. So my 60-day reminder notice. Really simple workflow that is using, that's basically referencing those custom properties that you made and could add a lot of value to remind you about a contract that's expiring, get that maintenance in before the contract does expire. This tool alone, we have a handful of clients using it in this way, and they're getting a lot of value from it. So I thought I would share this if you aren't already using something like this. So this is an example of a subscription workflow. Another example I wanted to talk about, automated scheduling. So you could do something simple like every 6 months, book a maintenance booking for this person on for this instrument. So sort of similar to like our recurring booking. We can also look at something a bit more complex that's usage-based. And I've heard this from a handful of clients where sometimes it's not so much, schedule the maintenance every 6 months. It's really dependent on how much the instrument has been used. So in this example, I have a trigger set up that notifies you each time the microscope has been used for 1,000 hours since the last maintenance service that has happened. So real world example, how people are using it right now, really interesting way to do it. But how that would be set up here is I have a trigger and I have my maintenance alert 1,000 hours booked trigger. Again, we're going to skip over all this top stuff over here. This could be a separate webinar in itself, but I have defined what my maximum threshold is, 1,000 hours from the last maintenance booking, and I'm telling QReserve what to do. Email this person. It doesn't have to be a static person too. It could be the instrument contact. It could be the company, the vendor that you're working with. You define that. But basically, it's a simple email reminder letting you know we should be booking in a maintenance because we've reached 1,000 hours or we're close to reaching 1,000 hours. The last one here, Slack communication. Another just like little plug, I don't know if people are aware, we have a Slack integration, which is pretty cool. And we have a couple of clients using it that are very simple. It's basically sending you a Slack message anytime a maintenance booking is made. Really simple, just again, it's valuable to some people to have it appear in another communication channel. So the trigger task is sending a Slack message, and this could be for a variety of reasons. If maintenance is booked, maybe if maintenance is booked for a particular instrument, if a particular person books maintenance, send this channel, this person, a Slack message. Okay, we are in our final slide here before Q&A and right on time, 12:50. Maintenance and projects. This is another one where might not have an application for you, but just to sort of broaden your mind of different ways of thinking of managing maintenance in QReserve. Again, because maintenance is a type of reservation, you have the ability to assign it to a project, relate it to a project, just like you would with a regular reservation. Reasons why you might do this isn't for everyone. There might not be a need for like standard maintenance bookings, but reasons I've seen this done is number one, if you have a sort of complicated series of maintenance bookings, if it is a full room, like a clean room that's having a shutdown and there's a lot of different resources in that room, it's spanning over a long period of time, and it just makes sense to have a better way to track all of those different components. A project is a perfect tool that you can use for that because the project essentially is that umbrella. So that is a reason. It can also just be like a single resource maintenance, but if it's having a lot of different sort of micro bookings over the course of a week or so, it might make sense to try to group them together to track it a bit better. So I've done an example here where it's one resource and I have micro bookings that are happening throughout the week. So I sort of want to think of this as two reservation levels, two maintenance levels. I'd want to shut down the instrument for the entire duration that the maintenance is going to happen, so for the full week. But I also want to track the individual times that someone is coming in to repair something. And so that would be this like micro booking that's underneath. So again, we're preventing a user from walking in when the instrument is not available, but also tracking that granular level here. So those two maintenance bookings. If you're an administrator, you're going to have to use your force power here because QReserve is going to warn you two bookings at the same time. So flex that force booking power. I'll head on over here to our last section to show you how I've done this for my maintenance project. Number one, I have created a maintenance tag for my projects if this is something I plan on doing. So let me filter this down for maintenance and find the project I'm looking for. Here we go. My shutdown for my room or my specific instrument. We can see all of the bookings that I've made so far that are related to this project. I have the ability to easily make new maintenance bookings. So this is for my focal microscope. Well, we'll make it more than 1 minute. We'll say 2 to 4:30. Workhorn maintenance. It's already tied to this project, so everything is going to be updated in real time in your project profile here. And so if you can imagine this spanning over a larger project, it's handy to have everything grouped together. You can see this from a calendar, but it's nice to have this extra layer, this overview at the project level. It also unlocks a couple of bonus features where we can have notes, we can upload files, and then also we can very easily report from a page like this where we can group everything related and have that as a filter from any report that we need to do. So that takes me to the end of the webinar. We've covered everything. I know that's a lot of info. We have 6-ish minutes for Q&A, but I wanted to thank you so much for joining today. I hope that this sort of showed a couple maybe new ways to consider using maintenance if you weren't already using it like this. And we're always open to feedback. So if there's something that you liked in here, you can see your team applying. Contact info is down here. Send us a message. You can send Marissa an email if you have an idea for another session if we wanted to dive deeper. But again, if any of the things we've covered today have piqued your interest and now we're interested in the actual implementation, like how do I go about setting this up? How would this work for my facility? Contact info is here. Happy to chat with you.
Thanks, Dominique. That was awesome. I do have one question from the chat. It was posted earlier, but you were on a roll, so I didn't want to interrupt. So I'll ask that question now. So the question is, if you don't add any restrictions, will maintenance be available for all resources? Or do you have to add restrictions to have the maintenance allowed?
Maintenance is always, I guess from which perspective, yeah, from the administrator's perspective, you could book maintenance whenever. So like your duration limits for booking maintenance, if I had a 30-minute reservation duration limit for my resource, that wouldn't apply to maintenance. So I believe the rules that you've set up, with a few exceptions, like the actual usage tracking rules, like when can I check in and check out of a maintenance event, those ones apply to maintenance, but then other reservation rules don't.
Okay, there's a clarification as well that just came in.
Okay.
When you add a maintenance editor role.
Oh, yes. My understanding, and because this is a newer feature, I will double check with our development team, but my understanding is that if you were added as a editor role, it sort of bypasses those other roles. So like, let's say you had a group restriction, a credential restriction there, and that editor role didn't have that credential or user group, but you have then given them explicit permission to be the editor and creator for maintenance, it would override that and allow them to do that. But Cindy, we have more technical people on this call. I can double check and confirm with you, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, you know what? This is a new feature. I'm not too sure if my question, I think, my understanding of the question is if there are no restrictions on the maintenance editor role, so you don't restrict that to any one resource, that would appear to all resources. So I think that's the assumption, but we'll double check and confirm that actually that's the way it works.
If that answered, like, we'll do some confirmations on our end, but if there's anything more to that question that wasn't answered, please let us know. We'll try to clear that up.
Okay, that's all the questions that I see in the chat. Last call then, if anybody has a question that they'd like to ask, please go ahead and type it in the chat. Again, the chat can be accessed on the bottom right of your screen. There's a speech bubble. If you click on that, it will open up our chat, and feel free to type any questions in there. Yes, a question just about, so thanks, Dominique, very interesting. The video, we'll post the video in the next few days. Yes, you can look through our documentation that's on the QReserve site for the configuration. If you'd like, I can include in my follow-up email a link to the documentation. If it's specifically revolving around those new roles and permissions that we were just speaking about, I can include the link directly to those, to that page. Because it does walk through all the different roles that we now have the new user permissions. And then the video, if you'll be able to watch that again to go through specific examples that Dominique went through as well. Okay, I think that's it. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending this another excellent session of QUniversity. If you'd like to go onto our website at QReserve.com and then under QUniversity, we do have more upcoming events that are listed. So we've got the rest of our Q2 events coming up in May and June. We have May is Ask Me Anything. So it'll be a fun open house type town hall forum where there will be a number of us from QReserve here, and you can ask us whatever questions you would like. We'll be happy to answer anything that you might be curious about. Could be specific use cases that you may have, or questions about the company, or whatever. It'll be a fun session, very informal, and happy to answer anything you've got. And then in June, we've got another one of my Q&A sessions coming up, which is our quick half-hour how-to, and that one's going to be on newer functionality too. So some of the newer features that we have available in QReserve that you might not have been aware that we've got. So we'll go over those as a quick review. So I look forward to seeing everybody soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for joining.